This morning on BRN, more than 250 million individuals are unaware that they may have diabetes. Joining me now to help break this all down, Professor Dianna Magliano of Monash University and the Baker Heart and Diabetes Institute. Professor, great to see you. Thanks for joining us on the program this morning.
Hello, thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, this is such an important topic. Diabetes has become, at least here in the United States, has become a major disease that I think doctors here and practitioners are dealing with. But you and the team did a lot of research. There may be people around the globe that have diabetes and they don't even know that they have diabetes, Professor.
Sure. Well, first thing to say about that is diabetes is a problem for all nations. Every single nation in the world has a problem with diabetes. And we know that the number of people who are unaware of who have diabetes or are unaware that they have the condition is about 43%. And that figure is actually higher in Africa than it is in first world countries.
Yeah,
in Africa, almost 80% of people have diabetes and don't know about it. And the problem with that is that they have complications that develop associated with their diabetes.
Yeah, my apologies for interrupting. I didn't mean to do that. In terms of, Professor, in terms of not knowing, I mean, is it just that they're unaware, they're not educated enough about what the symptoms may be, they're not getting, or they're not getting tested for the disease?
Well, there's a couple of issues there. So when you have elevated glucose, elevated more than 7 millimole per litre, you don't actually feel any different. It can be quite inert and you don't get thirsty and tired until your glucose gets very high. And so that's why they don't necessarily recognize the symptoms. And a lot of people don't get tested. So the idea is that over 40, when your BMI starts getting high, you should get tested every 2 years, especially if you have a family history of diabetes. Obviously, we're talking about mainly type 2 diabetes here, but type 1, it's very different, and you get sick rapidly over a course of, a week or 2 weeks. And then if you don't get on insulin, you will perish.
And Professor, what would be the underlying cause or causes for this increase in diabetes? Is it strictly related to what we're all eating, the types of food we're eating, what we have access to in terms of food?
So the biggest driver of diabetes prevalence is obesity. That by far is the highest, strongest risk factor, but other things are at play. Also, we have a predominance of poor diet. We have decreasing levels of physical activity. And then there's family history. So people who are from the subcontinent, Southeast Asians, South Asians, and Southern Europeans and Indigenous people are at a higher risk of diabetes than a Northern European or a white person. The other thing you have to be aware of is these numbers are big because diabetes is a disease of an aging population, and we're getting better at treating diabetes. And so people are living longer with their diabetes, so they're not dying off. So prevalence will stay high. So that's why why we're seeing high numbers, but we can't get away from the fact that obesity and lack of physical activity and poor diets are the big drivers of our increasing prevalence rates of diabetes.
And when you look, obviously it varies by country, but you said it's not just a first world problem, it's a second and third world problem as well. What does this mean for policymakers and that have responsibilities for their populations, whether they're here in the United States, the Congress, the president, but elsewhere? I mean, what do they need to think about in terms of what these numbers mean? If they're not going to go down per se, we want them to go down, but they're going to remain high because people can live longer with these chronic diseases. What does it mean in terms of preparing to deal with this large number?
So, we live longer with chronic diseases, but with diabetes, what happens is you develop complications, and having high glucose is not good for any organ of the body. And these complications are life-threatening and really decrease the quality of your life. And so diabetes affects your eyes, your heart, your kidneys, your nerves. And we're also starting to see that diabetes has been associated with a whole range of newly emerging complications like cancer and frailty and depression, anxiety, and lastly, dementia. And that's a real problem for our future generations. And in terms of the cost of dealing with people with dementia and diabetes and their families. But what's going to happen in first world countries? We spend a lot of money on healthcare. Okay, so the US spends a large portion of its GDP on healthcare. But it's going to be a problem in middle income countries who don't spend a lot of money on healthcare yet, and they get diabetes about on average 10 years younger. So they're going to have their working the people who in their middle ages who are working for their governments affected with diabetes, affected with complications, and they're the people who are going to be driving the GDP. And so if they're sick and they're unwell, that's going to affect the bottom line of the GDP of those countries much more rapidly and probably in a more impactful way than it does in high income countries.
And how do we? It sounds like, again, I'm not an expert, I'm a layperson, but it sounds like one of the things we need to do is better educate. And that's to say, not to say that we don't do that today. Collectively, we're not doing that today, but would you agree that is a measure that needs to be taken? Like what are the symptoms? What do you need to think about? Why you need to be tested and have your blood drawn and your sugar glucose levels tested?
So we've had this diabetic epidemic, and we think it's probably one of the biggest epidemics we've ever had, in akin to the Spanish flu epidemic. But when we first started doing the Atlas back in 2000, there were many more people undiagnosed. So we have improved diagnosing people through screening programs all over the world. And so in some westernized countries like the US and Australia, only 1 in 4 people won't know they have diabetes. It's really bad in developed or middle income countries, but it's better in some other places as well. So I think we've done a lot of education, and I would be really surprised to think that people are unaware of the diabetes epidemic. We all must know someone in our family or in our friendship group who has type 2 diabetes, even who maybe have type 1. So education's a part of it, but I still think we have to do something more than that now. We have to change the way we live. We have to change our environments. We have to introduce junk food taxes and sugar sweetened beverage taxes. And we need to think about targeting people who are at very high risk of developing diabetes. And that's those who have pre-diabetes. We have to put them into lifestyle intervention programs where possible and get people to lose weight. So we have to all lose weight and live better and eat better.
Yeah, going to the gym or getting off the couch or off the chair, the anchor chair, and is it as easy, Professor, as taking a walk? I don't have to become a bodybuilder or
become a bodybuilder, but the biggest
there's no chance of that happening.
Is obesity, and the biggest driver of your obesity is what you consume. Make no mistake, if you want to change your diabetes risks, halve your calories. Exercise also, but halve your calories. That's the big driver. So get your waist circumference down, and that will really help you prevent diabetes. Or if you're just newly diagnosed with diabetes and you get your waist circumference down, you may even remit your diabetes. So this is the whole new thing now. Can we remit people who just developed diabetes? Can we get them back under the cut point now by low-calorie diets and various versions of intermittent fasting and programs like that?
Yeah, well, it sounds like where there's a will, there's a way. The steps are there. We just need to take them. Professor, great to see you. Great research. Thanks for joining us, and we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
Thanks. I had a good time. Thank you.
And don't forget to subscribe to our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse, for all the news in one place. Details, of course, at our website. And your subscription helps support all this great BRN content. Until tomorrow, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.